Oh my goodness, it's only 10 minutes before supper, and we're gonna make dinner for the whole family. We're gonna make a thing that's kind of a recipe from maybe the 70s, 80s. It's called Sloppy Joe's. It's like a classic kind of Americanized dinner. But what's so great about Sloppy Joe's is it's easy, it's quick. I can do it in 10 minutes, but I can hide tons of vegetables in it. So I've just gone in my fridge. I've got all the vegetables we have. We have a secret ingredient to add today as well. Most of it is ground beef, and we hide all of the vegetables for the family. Now, Sloppy Joe's tastes really, really yummy. It's basically just a whole bunch of sodium on bread, and that goes in kids really well. But to make it taste really good, you have to have it on, like, it has to not soak into buns. So the trick is with Sloppy Joe's is to toast up the buns nicely. So I'm going to turn on a barbecue here. I'm going to turn on a Traeger barbecue. Quite honestly, because your laptop is sitting on another one over there. So I'm going to put this up to 450, and a Traeger smoker will work as a barbecue. If I ignite it and I pull the temperature right up, then this Traeger can act like a barbecue. So I'm just going to toast the buns on that. So let me get some butter to butter those buns. If we're going quick for a lot of people, then I like using sort of a spatula to butter. Sometimes we have a whole bunch of kids over, so I can butter all of these really quickly, just like this. Sometimes when you're feeding kids, let's say all the neighborhood kids come over, and you want to keep their tummies nice and full because well-behaved kids have full tummies. Sometimes you just butter some bread, toast it up, cut it into fingers, put some salt and pepper on that, and that's a great snack to fill kids' bellies. So we'll get these toasting. We'll eventually do twice as many of those. But the important part is to get lots and lots of veggies in this meal. So all I did was grab what's in the fridge. I already had this cucumber, or this cauliflower we've been working on, lots of riboflavin in it. And cauliflower can be hidden reasonably well as long as you've cooked it until it's soft. So a friend of the kids was over just now, and she was asking, what are you making for supper? And I said, Sloppy Joe's tonight. And she said, why are you holding all vegetables then? Do you put meat in your Sloppy Joe's? And I said, of course, it's all meat. Don't tell the boys. And the boy said, no, she hides tons of vegetables in Sloppy Joe's. But there are some meals you can hide a lot of vegetables in. So right now, as the frugal family cooks we are, or student cooks, we're using the stalks of broccoli. There's nothing wrong with the stalks of broccoli. Broccoli is an incredibly healthy vegetable. These stalks will cook down and be soft. It won't even be noticeable in the bun. You don't need to cook with a lot of things. I do like to do everything with a chef's knife. Most things just with a chef's knife. I'm gonna get the harder vegetables cooking first. I do have some soft vegetables to add as well, like onions and peppers, but they take a little bit less time. Garlic I put on very last because I really don't want to burn garlic. And I'm lucky enough to have this Blackstone griddle to cook on. And I like to clean that off from the last meal that I've made on it. I do have a video about how to clean a cast iron surface like this perfectly. My griddle has never been left very long, usually half a day or so in this state. But I'm usually cooking something oily on it, so I leave those oils on and clean it when I'm ready to cook again. Giving me a nice surface that doesn't dry out in between. If you don't do that, you do have to keep adding oil as you go. Or like throughout the days if you don't use it very often. But I use this a lot, so it's got a nice slick surface on it. Vegetables we're going to put on first are the ones that take a bit longer to cook. Trying to do this in 10 minutes, so I'm going to keep this up really high heat. Give them a little bit of oil to start their cooking process. Grab my favorite tool, which is this spatula. Just press them down and put them in the hot pot. And the hot part of my griddle, which is right here, you could be cooking on something different that also has a hot spot in it. Let's cut up some more vegetables for this meal. We have a green pepper. Green peppers are not really, yummiest type of vegetable, so we'll hide that in there. And it's getting a little bit old as well. The thing is with sloppy joes is it's such a salty meal, such a salty and flavorful meal. You really only taste the sodium and a little bit of sort of processed tomato flavoring. So you can hide all sorts of things, even green pepper in there. And I'm just dicing them up really, really quickly. When I saute them, they're going to lose their shape anyway. I'm not making this for company. I'm not making this in something where it's going to be raw. Therefore, I'm not going to dice it beautifully. I threw that on the grill on top of everything else. Let's add an orange one for some color. We can chop that one really roughly and quickly as well. So nice rough cut on some more peppers. It's springtime in Ontario. One of the best things about spring in Ontario is asparagus. But my children don't love asparagus. I do know some who do. The trick with asparagus is you never cut the end off because you don't know where to cut it. Because you could cut some of the good part off and you don't really know where the fibrous part is. So you always bend asparagus to get the fibrous part off. And then it does not waste the good part. And the fibrous part comes off naturally, where that part would be all fibrous, that part is good to eat, and it naturally breaks there. So you never use your knife on taking the bottom of an asparagus off, because you can't judge that as well as the asparagus. Asparagus is very good for you. I'm going to hide a whole bunch in this sloppy joe. And not the best way to cook asparagus. There are beautiful ways to cook it. This recipe does not do justice to any of the vegetables. It's more like for hiding them. I'm on very high heat because I'm cooking fast, but I have to make sure I don't burn. I'm definitely gonna start burning these vegetables if I don't get something with a fat content on there. So I'm gonna take my same spatula to open this pack of meat. Now, sometimes I have the privilege of using meat from a farmer. Sometimes I just buy it. Sometimes I have a very small budget and I buy some very discounted, cheaper meat. This is actually not a discount. This is full price, but it's only $9.50 for all of this. This is a combination of pork and beef. Not what I would use for company, not what I would use for a lot of things like a burger that would shrink, but absolutely fine for a weekend dinner of sloppy joes for your family. So know when to spend and save the rest of the time so that you can spend the times that you need to spend. There's no doubt about it, ground beef is best cooked with a spoon, a wooden spoon. It's just the texture of it that absorbs the fat perfectly. This is one by Pampered Chef. I've had it for 18 years. A wooden spoon for 18 years. It was an expensive wooden spoon, maybe $9. But it's got its use. So to cook ground beef, everybody, my students do this quite often. Cook ground beef, you just want to be always chopping it up into the small pieces. That's how you cook ground beef. Chop it up. To make sloppy joes, we cook the ground beef, then we put the sloppy joe mix in. Right now, I'm smelling that this is not right. I mean, I broke rule number 1. Whenever you cook with ground beef, you really should cook with onions first. Onions and garlic. So, not sure why I did that wrong. 1 minute, I get the onions. I did have the onions out. And yeah, basically, I don't know of any time you would cook ground beef without putting onions in. It just doesn't even smell right if you don't put onions and garlic in the ground beef. So let's fix this problem that my nose encountered. To dice onions, you cut lengthwise, and then you cut widthwise. Buy bigger onions. These onions are a pain. Cut widthwise. Those are my little slices of onion, and then you can just dice these off. If you're making a rustic meal like this, who cares about the rest? Just go like that. Once we have this done, we're going to ring that dinner bell. We're going to hope it only took us 10 minutes. How am I doing for time? You tell me. Am I doing okay for time? Maybe I'll launch this video real time and we can talk about it while I'm doing it. You can tell me how I'm doing for time. Got to get that onion in there to make it smell better. Cutting garlic really fast here. How do you do garlic really fast? You just take the tops and bottoms off the clove. Now I have all these cloves with tops and bottoms off. Put them on their sides. Smash them. Smash each one. Still has its peel on it. You smash each one. And I don't use a garlic press. Those are messy. They take a long time. They make dishes. And I think they make the garlic too small for it to cook nicely. I'm actually fine with this garlic being in at the last minute, so I'm going to take a moment to stir this up. It's ground beef. This is how you cook ground beef. You just break it up. Remember, mine is ground beef and pork because I'm cheaping out. This dinner is probably going to be less than $5 per person. Now when I put my garlic in, I can easily separate this because I've crushed it. So I can take the skin off because the skin has come off while I crushed it. Kind of abuse the garlic till it comes off apart. Now I have these nice pieces of crushed garlic that are releasing all of that garlic oil. They're pretty big pieces. Just cut them up a little bit. I like that. Keep them in the hot spot. I'm gonna add a couple eggs because I'm cooking for children. I just want to get more nutrients in there as well. I'm gonna throw the eggs in the hot spot. Just gonna let those eggs fry there. Now I've got a little bit of dairy in there that the kids aren't gonna notice. Let me check on these buns because I've never made buns on a Traeger before. Learning curve, little dark, some of those. So we'll just do this for a little bit less time. The Traeger is primarily a smoker. It's supposed to be a barbecue as well. It doesn't so far really live up to its claim that you could get rid of your barbecue. It does do things a little bit differently. These were too dark. Some of them are okay, but we do have to redo these buns. I'm gonna leave the lid open a little bit on that and give it a little less time than we did last time. We best get everything finished here. I'm going to crank this up. And I'm going to show you the secret ingredient. Secret ingredient is manwich. I think it's been the same since, I don't know, 70s or 80s. Let's open up a couple of these. Now, can you put sauces on a griddle? How do you do that? The griddle has a hole at the back and everything drains to the back. But I make sauces on the griddle all the time. I even boil pasta on a griddle. I do that by propping up the back of it. So if we prop up the back of that Blackstone there, we can contain a sauce. And that's the secret to doing everything on that one appliance. And this one. This is a combination of a lot of just old-fashioned spices and sodium. All right, our eggs are lovely and getting cooked here. Our ground beef is almost ready, but I had some on a cold spot. I'm gonna throw it all around until the ground beef is no longer pink. Then we'll add our sauce. We'll put it on our buns, which I better check on. Yeah, so the buns really just need a split second on this griddle or on this Traeger. The Traeger is an interesting way to cook. There's no flame or anything. The heat is way down below a tray. The heat is burning little pellets, little kind of like fuel pellets. And that happens below the tray. Then there's a tray that protects your food. So it's a little different than using a regular barbecue, where if you put something fatty on a barbecue, the fat drips into the fuel source and it flames up and it gives you a bit of a charbroil, like burn on your food, which is sometimes what you want and it's sometimes what you don't want. This, it's just hot smoke. So I know this isn't going to burn with fire, but it's very hot smoke. So I can't do it for long. Just like in karate, your weapon is your hand. In cooking, your tool is your hand. So don't need a lot to barbecue with. People buy me those barbecue sets all the time with those really big instruments that you're supposed to stand really far back from your barbecue. But most of the things I actually do with my hands if you look carefully. Okay, now we better prop up this entire stove in order to cook this like a sauce, because we have to put sauce on it. We have to make it into a sauce. So I've just propped up my stove so that it no longer drains in that back bowl. The dogs will no longer eat what comes up out the back. I'm adding 3 manwich sauces because I have a large family. How am I doing for time, everybody? What are you enjoying? What are you not enjoying? Are you still with me? Are you going to be with me until I ring the bell on this? Kids are in there waiting. They know what I'm doing. They're going to run out and set the table as soon as I ring that bell. And that's all there is to it. The veggies are cooked. The ground beef is cooked. Now I'm just hiding it. I can serve this with a light salad. That would be very nice. Sometimes I serve with plain spinach. My children just don't like dressing, so I put half a plate of plain spinach on the plate, and then I let them grab as many of these sloppy joe as they want on their nice toasted buns. I'm going to turn it down now because I'm making a sauce on a griddle, and a sauce on a griddle, it gets very hot. Better hide my egg a bit more. They won't notice there's egg in there. They'll hardly notice the vegetables. They might say something, but they know they can't taste them. A meal like this is like a processed food ingredient meal. You don't add salt and pepper and flavoring to it. This is a North American kind of, what happened in the 70s and 80s when both family members started working. That's the history of this type of food in North America. So you don't add any more flavor to that. You could put a bit of hot sauce if you want. I'll put it on the table. Let's prepare these buns. Thank you for joining me with a bit of trial and error about the smoker and buns. In the future, I think I'll stick to the Weber Q. Now I'll show you how we assemble these. How we would assemble this for supper. is never serve anything like this. Really never serve anything on plastic. So I would serve on a nice wood chopping board like this that one of the kids made me and put all of my buns on here. Some of them are a little bit well done. The parents take a sacrifice and eat those ones, right? And we take our sloppy joes. My family eats these with a knife and a fork. Some people eat them open faced with a knife and a fork. That's how I grew up as an 80s child. There were tons of vegetables in mine as well, hidden in there. The worst thing in the 80s was your parents would hide frozen peas in there. That was disgusting. Best thing to hide in here is spinach, but I don't have any in the house today. So it makes tons of food. Each of my family members are probably going to have 2 of these, maybe even 3 for my teenage boys. I've turned this off so they can make the rest themselves. Stay with me until we can ring that dinner bell. And there we have our 1980s sloppy Joe for a family with tons of hidden vegetables in them. Let's go ring the bell for the kids to come and set this outdoor table, and we'll eat this outside on this beautiful sunny spring day in Canada. I hope you enjoyed. Talk to you again. See you.